I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hi everyone, welcome to the final episode of season 1 of the Batwoman After Show. I am Katie. Unfortunately, Ali Kona could not be here today. She had some work to do, but I'm so excited to dive in this finale episode because it was quite insane. I have a very, very special guest with me today. You know her from making the Batwoman team and other DC superheroes look completely badass. We have costume designer Maya Mani with us today. How are you doing today, Maya?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So first off, we know it is kind of an interesting time, and I think you said you were in Vancouver. How are you doing during this time? Are you doing okay, having some extra time, or are you still working?
I'm actually taking the time, and I'm actually loving it. It's really great just to chill and be home. I don't get to be home very often, so it's lovely.
Awesome.
And
yeah,
here we go. I just want to throw this out there. Yesterday, for our final episode, true fact, International Bat Appreciation Day. It's a real day.
Awesome.
And that was our final episode. So
that is cool. And it wasn't originally supposed to be your final episode, but it kind of had a nice little touch to it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for that information. I did not know, but I did see all the cast like giving love and posting of all their behind the scenes posts about it. So, but yeah, we're going to talk more about the costumes later. But first, we're going to dive into the episode a little bit. Oh, this was a crazy finale. What were some of your thoughts, Maya?
Well, it wasn't supposed to be our finale, was it now?
No.
But having said that, it was lovely. I mean, that scene with Alice and Mouse breaks my heart, broke my heart.
I agree. I seeing Alice cry for one got to me, but we haven't seen that genuine of a moment between them, and it did affect me as well. But then, for not being a season finale, I thought this was very well done, and with the whole cliffhanger. I mean, we saw Bruce Wayne. We've yet to see Bruce Wayne in the all this. So that was, I think, I wouldn't have known it wasn't the finale if we knew otherwise.
How lucky is that?
I know. Yeah, Caroline did a great job with that episode and saying, oh, we can cut it here. This works. So yeah, and I do want to give a shout out to our chat real quick. Smallback727 MVP Live. Thanks for joining us. If you guys have any questions, we are going to be we do have a special segment, Maya, where we say our badass beast for the episode. So if you want to think about it for a second, and chat, this is your chance to think about your badass beast. I will jumpstart since I threw it at you and you have to think about it for a second. My badass beast for this episode was Mary, because she told off Commander Kane when he was basically, I don't like Batwoman, I don't want to be there. I appreciated that Mary was like, well, how can you expect me to feel this way about you? Or how can you expect Gotham to feel this way when I don't even feel this way and I'm your daughter? It's like, she told him? Okay, so Mary was mine. What about you?
Ooh, toss up. Mary has just been such a badass these last few episodes. I adore that character. I think she's awesome. But I would say when Sam finally said, I'm leaving. You may want to stay in the sewer, but I want to leave. I thought that was something.
It was a very brave decision. I feel like most people would not have the strength to do that, especially given what he said. Let's see. Small Mac said, badass beast is Mary for going off on Jacob. So we're kind of on the same page there, everybody. And then MVP Life said, badass beast is Mary for just because she's a badass. All right, I like it. And Josh Herrera did say the Batwoman costume is perfection and said thank you. So he gave you a little shout out, and we will talk more, of course, about that. We all have questions, so y'all start thinking about them. So a lot happened in this episode. It was quite a lot, but they did manage to wrap up all of the stories pretty well for the season, given the fact that we were 2 episodes short. Commander Kane, me and Ali Kona, who couldn't be here tonight, we always are on the fence about how we feel about Commander Kane, And with this one, a lot happened. We saw him be look like he changed his mind about Batwoman and her working with him. But then there was a lot of betrayal in this episode, which we'll talk about as well. But he did betray her, and then they try to kill her, and then they find out oh no, our bullets don't work, and now he is kind of going to be on the same soon as Alex. So what are your all thoughts on the whole Commander Kane siding with Batwoman? Like, do you think, was that surprising to you? I mean, obviously you know things from designing, but just as a watching standpoint.
I mean, I think that's a lot of this episode was about betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Alice betrays Mouse. Commander Kane betrays Batwoman. There is a lot of betrayal. It was it's kind of heartbreaking. If he only knew. If he only knew.
Yeah, and it's been a point of discussion for a few weeks of, do we think she's going to tell him? Do we think he's going to find out? Do we think it'll change if he does? And honestly, I think we kind of got that answer tonight. I don't think it will change if he does find out. I mean, he may not try to kill her anymore if he finds out it's his daughter, but as for how he feels about vigilantes, I don't know how much that will change even if he does find out it's his daughter. I mean, there was the point of Alice was his daughter, and look how he's feeling about Alice. So it was definitely interesting to see them explore the possibility and then be like, no, at the end of the day, this is what he does. So, and then we had a new villain of the week, which of course I like the beginning of this episode in the sense that a breakout happened of Arkham, which is kind of what brings chaos to Gotham in any of these shows, is whenever there's a breakout of villains. So we did have a villain who was known as the Titan when he was in the NHL, and we got to see that first moment where Kate, it was a little bit foreshadowing, but not really, when Kate is in the subway with him. And he's like, why did you stay in the car? So I do like that we're getting those moments. We are going to talk a little bit more about the whole in general Team Batwoman now, because there's a lot more people in this episode to talk about. So we know she wanted to change her mind, and then Mary helped her, which I did like that she helped her. And then Kate confronted the Titan herself. And chat, oh, hold on. I'm going to throw back to chat real quick. So welcome, Captain K. Danvers. Let's see. They're talking about your suit and it being her suit being bulletproof, laughing at him shooting Batwoman. Yes, small Mac. Of course, we all knew that wasn't going to go anywhere. I mean, they're trying to shoot her with bullets, and unless they have kryptonite, it's not going to go anywhere. But that said, we got to see them finally establish Team Batwoman officially. I mean, they didn't officially say it, but at the end when Kate, she had a nice moment with Mary and Luke saying, I'm going to tell you this secret. And that's when you realize this is the team. This is them realizing that they're in this together. And I do like that in this whole episode of betrayal and family, we're seeing Kate make her family within her work, within the bat suit. So what did you feel? How did you feel about those scenes with Mary and Luke and Kate when they actually kind of were starting to realize that they're better together than apart?
I mean, I think I think you summed it up very nicely when you said it is about betrayal, and then and you don't always get to choose your family. Sometimes your family presents itself, and family are people who support you regardless, no matter what. They're there for you, and I think that's what that showed.
Yeah, for sure. And then we had on the other side of that, we had the family that you do have and that you can't choose, which is Alice. And I think the biggest thing that stuck out in my mind about this episode was Alice. But we talked about it a little bit earlier. We saw a lot of good moments between Alice and Mouse today, and with Hush, which was obviously great to see Tommy back and Hush back, because he brings this eeriness that we were kind of not always having in every episode. But it brought a tear to my eye seeing Alice kill Mouse. And we did have Sam on the show a few weeks ago, and just a delightful person, and he shed some light on his character. But I mean, chat, I want to hear your thoughts on this too, because this was one of those moments that I did not see coming. I did not see her deciding to poison Mouse because he was going to leave her again. Now I get her thoughts behind it, but to be betrayed again, it was like for her worse than losing him. But it was a very intense scene. So And kudos to everyone who acted in that scene because you could feel it. And I feel like that's what makes the show, that scene so good, is when you can feel what those characters are feeling. So when it comes to, and when I know you focus on all like the costumes for the actual super suits and stuff, but you do with the costume designer for the whole show as well. So when it comes to Alice, and do you play some of the way that their character is obviously incorporated into their costume? So are you adapting it as the plot changes?
Well, Alice, I think I'm trying to present her as like Alice in Wonderland. So she's in these frilly dresses and these kooky shoes and things like that. Whereas Mouse, I looked a lot of 1970s clothes. To me, he got his clothes from a thrift shop, right?
Nice.
So it's kind of a knockoff of a 70s jacket. And it's also to think about him maybe as a little boy, how he was as a little boy.
Yeah.
They shot that scene on the last day of shooting.
Hmm.
So it was, there was not a dry eye on set. We were all wailing our eyes out. And when I first read that scene, I emailed our showrunner, Carolyn Dries, and said, "You've just broken my heart. How could you do this?" And if this was a different show, one of the other Arrowverse show, we'd throw them into the Lazarus pit, or they'd come back as a ghost, or they'd come from another Earth. But this is not the same thing. So yeah, it was a very sad moment, and so well played. Those two are incredible together.
Yeah. So Small Mac says, I feel like Alice was going to kill Mouse since he wanted her to choose him or stay. See, you're more perceptive than I was. I did not. It broke me, I will admit. So when you said that everybody was pretty emotional, I can imagine why. And then to throw it that much into it, and you didn't know it was the last day of filming at that point, right? Because, or had you?
We found out in the morning.
Oh, okay. So they even know like we are going to be shutting down. It wasn't just like, oh, that ended up being the last day.
No, we found out in the morning, and we were prepped to start a new episode on the Monday, and it just never happened.
Gotcha.
But I mean, Alice, I think that shows you how sick Alice is. That getting rid of Mouse is just another rung in the ladder of her master plan. So
yeah. But then at the end, because the villains kind of stole the show in a way in this episode with that final reveal where she finally gives Tommy a new face. And chat, I know y'all freaked out about this because at first we're like, who is it? Like, who's he gonna be? And then it shows the newspaper and it's Bruce Wayne. And all of a sudden, we all get that moment that we've been anticipating all season of, are we gonna see Bruce Wayne? Now, we saw Bruce Wayne, but not in the sense that we thought it was going to happen. Now, I can imagine, even though you know some of what's going on, that still has to be one of those moments that when you found out had to be like a big reveal and pretty awesome to see, right?
Absolutely. I'm lucky I get the scripts ahead of time, and I don't share them with the rest of my department right away, but they can hear me going, oh my God, what? Oh my God. Oh. It's pretty cool.
And so
and they're
now,
trying to read over my shoulder, but sorry.
Like, not yet. You're like, you'll find out in time. You'll find out. So awesome. Yeah. Let's see. Worried. Captain Kate Amber says, I am just worried what Alice will do to Kate now since she did this to Mouse out of everyone. That's a good
great question.
I guess we'll find out next year. So I do just love the care that was put into this final episode. And with season finales, you always expect there to be a twist, and boy did we get one, and boy did it deliver. So, but it made me cry. I think it made everyone cry, and just being able to see Mouse show his actual inside soul, where he doesn't think about being bad for a second because all he wants is just to be with Alice. And they burned that book, and so that should have been a clue that she's making changes, but it was a good moment. So thanks for sharing your thoughts on it and that story. But we are going to ask you a little bit about costuming now. So chat, if you are joining in late, we have the costume designer. She also was the costume designer for Arrow for all the entirety of the show, and has also costumed. You said all, but you did one suit for Supergirl, and then you've done suits for all of the other DC characters on CW, correct? Awesome. So you started with Arrow, and just for a little background, what got you into costuming? I'm a costume designer, so I'm actually really excited about this
Oh,
too. So, but yeah, what got you into it?
um, honestly, it was a dare by my neighbor. And I was working on, I lived in Montreal. No, I lived in Toronto at this time. And then I went to see a movie with my neighbor and I said, God, there's just something kind of bumpy about this stuff. And he said, well, if you think you can do better, you should try it. I thought, oh, okay. Put that in the back burner. And then I was very lucky. I was like worked on some very, very low budget movies and got fancy titles like assistant costume designer, which is hysterical because there were two of us in the department. So I either had one title or the other. That was about it. So,
Yeah.
and I
Awesome.
worked my way through the ranks and did some styling and went to school to learn to be a cutter. Um, which I would say there's better cutters out there for
Yeah.
sure. But I mean, I work with some of the best, and then all of a sudden here I am.
That's
I was
awesome.
not a fan of comic books. They were not allowed in our house ever.
Hmm.
My parents were not big Batman, although I did watch the TV show, but that was about
Okay.
it.
Awesome. Well, that's an interesting turn then. Now you're like fully integrated into superheroes and designing superheroes for them. Now, even though you didn't grow up with reading them, how much do you pull from the comics as you're designing these suits for all these characters? Obviously, you have to pull some, but then they do change them slightly. So, how much is from the comics and how much is different when you're
Uh,
preparing?
I pull a lot from the comics. I mean, I think that's the place to start. Has a huge fan base, but I approach it more like I would approach a period show. So the research that I do, I like to hit the broad strokes, as I like to say. So, and my first clue as to how big this was Black Canary and the fishnets. So we're in Vancouver. We shoot through the winter. It's bloody cold. So
Yeah.
I sort of indicated fishnets, but I didn't actually put her in fishnets. And people were outraged. Where are they? It's like, so I actually had to point to them here, fishnet, and it was a pattern. But I always look to the broad strokes of what that character is. And I think the other thing that fans should know is that if these costumes evolve. So
Yeah.
if you look at the Arrow, he started with one costume and then he ended up, basically doing a full circle, but his costume went through various changes, as did Flash, as did White Canary, Black Canary, all of them.
Yeah.
They all go through an evolution. So I'm sure that Luke, this is not a spoiler, I don't know for sure, but
Yeah.
if I had my life in Technicolor, I would say Luke would work on that Batwoman costume
Yeah.
and, let it evolve as well.
Yeah, you kind of answered one of our questions that Kate Danvers asked
Oops.
us, which was, do you think that we'll see a costume change for her? And I think
I
with
don't
this, it's
honestly know.
possible.
I'm making
Yeah,
that up.
yeah.
I am
No,
making that up.
I totally understand. But she did have that question. Obviously, it was more of a, do you think that this kind of thing would happen? So, and
Yep.
I think with this universe, it's proven that there's always a couple tricks up their sleeves with wardrobe. And we did have a very good question from Smallback saying, what costume took the longest to make for a show? And this is not just for Batwoman, but I think in general.
The Atom.
The Atom? Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that was that Ray Palmer was a character on Arrow, and then Mark Guggenheim and Andrew Kreisberg phoned up and said, "So we're going to do this character, but we want him to be a little bit robotic and have an exoskeleton suit." So I hung up the phone, went off, had a good boohoo because I'm not an engineer,
Mhm.
and chipped away at it. And then between myself and the props master on Arrow, Ken Harlew, we put this together.
How long do you think that took to
Oh,
actually
I
get
know
it
how
made?
long it took.
Oh.
I think we started at the end of August and it
Mhm.
didn't play until January.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a long
Yeah,
time.
it was a long time.
But it looked
But
awesome.
usually they're like 2-3 weeks,
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
sometimes
that's
an episode.
nice. That's a really cool because I obviously when you're designing just the normal looks, it's a lot more easy to do and pulling things and designing them, and you're not dealing with other materials that you have to construct these. I mean, I've seen cosplayers do it, but that's not the grade that the movies are, in the sense of, they're just using foam or something like that. So and they're just recreating, not designing it from scratch. So every time I see a super suit on TV, I'm just blown away. I don't know that. I mean, I don't know that I could until I've done it, but I have not done that yet. So I'm always very impressed by it. So great job. Let's
Thank
see.
you.
Yeah. Which Black Canary suit was your favorite to make?
Oh, no, that's asking me to choose my favorite child. That's not fair. Oh, they all bring something. I mean, it's 3 different actresses. They all brought something incredible to the part. I'm not choosing. I refuse.
All right.
I
No
refuse to
worries.
choose.
No,
The one
I
thing
totally get you.
the one thing I do want to let people know is that 9 times out of 10 we'll try a costume out on the stunt performer first. And when I was on Arrow, the stunt department was literally right next door. It was really noisy. They had their tunes up. There was a lot of kind of stuff going on. But what they taught me was what these costumes had to accommodate, right? Just because these guys kick above your head. I mean, they do some crazy stuff. So the costume can't fail. It just can't. So I learned a lot from them.
Yeah, and I feel like that's also really makes it look more realistic. If you're in communication with how people can actually move in it, you'll know how they would actually need it to work in real life if they were really fighting crime. I mean, every time I see Batwoman's cape, I just get a little like, is it gonna get caught on something? Just like the instinct that you have, but it's done so well that it's never an issue. So yeah, awesome. And then is there, when you are designing the suit, when these shows are starting, with this being the first season, is the suit more of the starting point where you have the suit before you do anything else, or does it kind of all come into play like as it progresses? Like obviously we saw one costume change slightly this season, but do you start that process before anything else?
I think it's all hands on deck. We just keep going. As far as like Batwoman, sometimes there's subtle changes that no one else would know except me, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, she has various capes. So she has the cape that works with the motorcycle. She has the cape that works when she's landing. The stunt double has special boots so that when she lands, it's hard. So she has extra cushioning on her feet so that she doesn't blow out her knees. So there's all those kinds of things that nobody else would notice except me and the stunt performer.
Nice. Awesome. And as far as inspiration goes, we did talk about the comics, but obviously this is Batman. It's kind of the biggest, one of the most beloved franchises in the DCU. So as far as bat suits, do you have, not from this show specifically, but in general, do you have a favorite bat suit?
Oh, that's a good one. I like the Dark Knight.
It's classic. I get you.
Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, you can kind of see the Dark Knight's influence a little bit on Batwoman that we've talked about a little bit. It's more dark, so we do like that. And then I have another question, which we like to ask guest stars, like, who would you like to work with? But for me, I'm going to ask you, what character in the DCU would you want to design a costume for that you haven't yet?
The Joker.
The Joker, awesome. I'm pretty sure our chat will like that because obviously the Joker is a fan favorite. Awesome. I would be interesting to see. I think we're all hoping to see the Joker, just in sense because he's so popular in Batwoman. For me, I'm a huge Poison Ivy fan, so
good call.
I'm hoping.
Good call.
I mean, yeah, I'm hoping we'll see Poison Ivy at least one point, especially since she's a female villain, and we do know that it's very girl power on Batwoman. But yeah, so and you've learned so much, I'm sure, in this process. You've been working for it with the DC shows for about 8 years now, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
8 years. So
8 years.
How much, like, how does working on Batwoman change from how Arrow was? Or are they pretty similar?
Oh no, they're quite different. I mean, Arrow, nobody got along. They ended up in a warehouse. There was a lot of fighting,
Mm,
people flying all over the place. We blew people up, blah,
yeah.
blah, blah. Batwoman is a bit more organic, I would say. Um, it's not as well. Episode 18 this season of Batwoman. So that was James Bamford.
Mhm.
And that to me was more like an Arrow episode than anything else. I would say that this final episode, the story and the characters, they're just so beautifully written that you get to fall in love with them or hate them or love to hate them, however you go. It's not as much, it's not as stunt driven in that way.
Nice, gotcha. And MVP Life was asking, how did we see the red hair for Batwoman? I don't quite understand that question, MVP. So if you want to reiterate on it, I will re-ask it. But I think what MVP is saying is how did that come about? The way that the hair was done, was that a collab with hair and makeup, or was that part of your job as Sue?
No, Batwoman was established on Arrow, if you
Yeah,
recall.
yeah. Mhm.
So I think of it, we all kind of we knew we had to head there, right? So it was her not having the hair and then having it. It was part of her origin story, and just kind of segue into that. They actually did try different hair looks on her: shorter, longer, curlier, straighter, and settled where they did.
I like it. I think it looks really cool with the long red hair for sure. So.
There's great movement to this costume between the cape and the hair, and it's good to see.
It is, and what's great about Batwoman is with the flowiness of the costume, it makes the fight scenes just way more epic.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I think for the most part, we're pretty good to go with costumes. So thanks, chat, for your questions, and thank you so much again, Maya. I am going to talk about a little news real quick before we head out. It's really easy, and I think Ryan has a few pictures for us. There was a little bit with the season winding down. There's not a lot of news, but Rachel Scarston did post on her Instagram that she got married. So congrats, Rachel and Alex. She didn't post a picture. She wanted to keep it private, but there was a sweet picture on her Instagram where she said she got married. So that's we like to see happy things like that during this time. And there was some other pictures, Ryan. I don't know if they're up or not, but I just posted a few real quick from Rachel's Instagram. And basically, I wanted to say thank you to everyone in our chat who has been here supporting the show all season. You all are amazing, as well as to our amazing other people who came and guest starred with us, to Sam Littlefield and John Emmett Tracy and Nicole Kane. Thank you so much. It was so great to have them on the show. So I did just there's some pictures on there. If you wanted to, you can check out all of the stars' social medias because they were all posting behind the scenes moments from the whole season and their memories reflecting on the whole season, which they should still be available for a little while with the 24-hour story rule. So go check that out. It's fun. It's some lightheartedness that we all need during this time. So that said, I think that's about it. I want to give a couple more shout outs to K Ross 1312 in the chat. Obviously, Kay, thank you for tuning in. I know it's late and yet you're in Sweden, so thank you. And MVP, like, yeah, she's very inspired by Batwoman, and it was actually been very key moment in her life. So she always tunes into us, and she was really excited to see you here as well. I know she was a little late, but yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, but before we go, we do like to ask, like, do you have any social media or anywhere people can follow you if they want to know your life or see what you're working on or things like that?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge Twitter person or an Instagram. I mean, I have both accounts, and it's at Mayu Papayu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And is there any when do you start? Do you have any projects coming out that we could be keeping our eye out for, or is there not really anything else going on right now?
Right now, nothing's shooting here. Absolutely nothing. So I guess all I'd say is everybody stay safe, stay healthy, be good to each other, and we'll get through this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And folks, I am Katie Kawamoto. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at KT_Christine. Thank you again so much for tuning in. And if you do like this, please make sure you like or subscribe to this channel on YouTube or check us out on Apple Podcasts and give us those ratings so we can continue to bring you more great content. Have a wonderful day, everyone. And thank you again, Maya, and hope everybody else stays safe.
Bye.
So.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.